Hello, hello, hello. As Abby and Steve already mentioned, my name is Charlie, and I am a part of our youth group here at Lovechurch, and I have been for quite a few years now. I'm here to talk to you today about the words everlasting Father, and how we can use this in our lives. So to start out with my talk, I'm going to be giving a starburst to everybody here in the congregation. And my challenge for you is to try and see if you can keep it from melting for as long as possible. And my main inspiration for this was, as a big Roald Dahl fan, in the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory books, the everlasting gobstopper was one of the main things that I remembered throughout my childhood. And I want to give you something to think about as everlasting. And I want to explain how nothing is everlasting but our relationship with God. So we need to try our absolute best to take care of this and preserve this. My first experience with everlasting was when I used to go to St. Andrew's Church with my dad. I used to have this lovely youth leader called Claire, and she would always bake cakes for us for the very start of the service, and we'd always eat them in the youth group while we talked about God. Not so long ago, she sadly died, but it made me realize that nothing is eternal except my relationship with God, and that I need to try my absolute best to mend everything that I do wrong and try and keep my relationship to the best it can possibly be. When Isaiah wrote chapter 9, over 700 years before the birth of Jesus, he wrote it as a message of hope to the people of Judah. The people of Judah were facing an imminent invasion from the Assyrian Empire and a resistance fighting against it. The people of Judah needed a message of hope that things would get better, and Isaiah was there for those to say that there would be a Messiah to come and he would reign as an everlasting Father. Some people in here today are going to feel like they need some hope. Whether it's financial issues or mental health or work or school. Everybody today will be in a situation where they need hope. And our relationship with God is something that is going to help us to get through this. He is ready to offer us love regardless of what we have done, regardless of how far we fall. He will always be there for us no matter what. But this is something that we also need to be careful with, because we can often find ourselves abusing his love and his grace. By making decisions that a Christian shouldn't make and that a Christian wouldn't usually make. And when we make conscious sins and when we keep making mistakes, we create barriers between ourselves and God. And this can make us feel often alone and scared and without hope. Some people today might feel that they're on an off path and that they're not on the right path. But I want to remind you that the path that God has created for all of us in this room is the best one for us. And in Psalm 139, verse 13, it says, "You have knitted me in my mother's womb, and you are fearfully and wonderfully created." So not only does God know exactly what we are struggling with, he knows we are as strong and as capable as possible to be able to defeat the problems which have been put before us. So whenever you feel struggled with anything, whether it's doing sins or making mistakes, I want to remind you that God is there with us no matter what, and that God will always be there with us, and that regardless of how we feel, God always wants to talk to us. We just have to pick up the phone and talk back to him. In Jeremiah 29:11, it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." And this means that regardless of how distanced we feel from God and alone from him, he has prepared every single step that we take in our life, no matter what. God may also test our belief and our faith in our plans, in his plans for us, much like he did with Abraham. Ooh. And in Genesis 22, he is told to sacrifice his son, Isaac, to show his obedience to God and his faith in God's plan, the ultimate test of his character and his faith to God. And an angel stops him as he gets to the top of the mountain, and instead he sacrifices a lamb instead of his son. So despite how distant and separated we may feel, when we create these barriers between ourselves and God, he has the right plan for you, and that plan is for you only. Because of our relationship with God, we will always be shown his unfaltering grace. Because he gave his only Son to bridge the gap between ourselves and him. However, we may not always make the decisions he wants us to make. So I want you all to imagine what our lives would be like if we went through our day-to-day thinking exactly what God would want us to do, not what we feel is right or what other people want us to do. I want you to focus on not breaking down the barriers between us, but preventing them in the first place. Because only through Jesus will we get the perfect and happy ending. And although he is everlasting and will never leave us, we should always consider what is the best way to act as a disciple of God, not just as a Christian. Thank you.